gonna let people name a country, and I'm going to try and at least bullshit a reason why, the US made it free. You know, seems like a fun challenge in, bullshitting. US, I mean, the US did its own revolution, kicked the UK out. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory, honestly. Saudi Arabia. So, Saudi Arabia is a result of the World War I. The British and French kinda making a deal with the Arabians to rebel. World War I, until the US troops got there, it very much the Central Powers were winning and doing very well. And as much as people make fun of the US for just joining in the last 5 minutes, it was their troops that gave the final energy to let the Entente win World War I. I mean, Germany's desperate spring offensive was to try and win before the Americans showed up in force. So, and because the Allies won World War I, France and Britain, well, they kinda took a bunch of the territory they had promised to the Arab revolt, but still gave them some territory and their independence. And them actually taking some of that territory is what helped lead to the modern Saudi government taking power. I said I said country as in, like, independent nation state. Puerto Rico is not an independent nation state, therefore is not included in not included in this. Vietnam. I'm gonna have to do some big bullshitting with this one. Here we go. US Army has no idea how to fight insurgents successfully, which allowed the North Vietnamese to win, and the fact it was the US meant they got support from the CCP also, which helped, you know, them defend. And not to mention just how the US radar malfunctioned, and then they blamed the North Vietnamese saying they attacked them, is, yeah, that is what secured their independence. And just the fact the US went against them and lost probably, discouraged many other attempts. Though I know China did also invade them at one point. Yeah, that's the best I can do. The US was incompetent at fighting insurgents, so, China. I'm trying not to do just US helping win World War II for everyone, so I'll try and come up with a different one. But World War II, the US gave a lot of support to, well, King Chai-shek and the Chinese United Front. Not to mention the US attaché, who is nicknamed Vinegar Joe, and you can kind of get the idea from that nickname. King Chai-shek hated him, and from things I've heard, apparently did things that actually helped the current CCP rise to power. As for outside of World War II, oh yeah, the US, you know, part of the reason the US got so involved in Vietnam was because they didn't want a repeat of China happening. They didn't want another, you know, communist Asian nation, because they kinda decided not to do much with the Chinese Civil War. And so, well, right now I'm listing China as, like, the People's Republic of China is how I'm doing it. But yeah, so they The lack of US support for Chiang Kai-shek. South Africa. I have an idea. During the Cold War, the US was very, they were one of the big proponents of decolonization, which made the British, decolonize Africa and the whole, including South Africa, let them become independent and not a dominion. Mongolia. Ooh, gotta think about that one. Let me see. Mongolia was sort of a Soviet puppet, which I could then point to World War II, the Lend-Lease Act, and that stuff. Well, that kept them free from Japan, which is one way, but they were still, a Soviet sort of puppet state. But what then freed them from that was, the Cold War. The US won, the Soviet Union fell apart, and then no longer, Mongolia was able to break away from, the sort of puppet state Moscow had made it.